All right, everybody, this is the Horn Takes podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Red River Shootout week, the greatest week of all time, the greatest week of the season. We'll talk a whole lot about that the rest of the week, about what's so good about the Red River Shootout, why it's so special to me, why it's so special to Texas fans, why it's so special to both universities. But I went ahead and decided to bust out my Vince Young Rose Bowl jersey. I have not wore this in a long time. Those that have followed me on TikTok have probably seen me in this jersey too many times, more times than they want to admit or care to see. When I first started doing TikTok video, I did TikTok videos way before I ever decided to start a podcast. And so I always just threw this Texas jersey on because I'd be wearing just random stuff. So that was kind of like my uniform, the sunglasses, the Texas jersey. Maybe this Vince Young Rose Bowl jersey will bring us some good luck this weekend. Texas beats the absolute brakes off of the Kansas Jayhawks. And now they're headed to the Big D for the third stop on the Big 12 Fuck You Tour for 2023. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. We got 100+ followers on Twitter. Been tweeting, zeeting, whatever it's called, for about, I don't know, since probably around June. I'd like to get us up to 200. I think that's our next goal. Let's get to 200. TikTok, love to get to 5,000. I've got 4,500 roughly, 44 and some change. Love to get us to 5,000 on TikTok. Love to get us to 1,000 on YouTube. And if all my TikTok followers would just click into my profile, hit the YouTube button, and hit subscribe, bam, I'd be there. No time at all. If you guys just like to listen to podcasts, travel around a lot, stuck in the car all the time, commuting, maybe at lunch break, you just like to sit down and chill out and listen to something, check us out at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. We got a new format for the show this week, and I think we're going to try this for the rest of the year. I had been doing shows every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, and I decided to make a change for a couple reasons. One, that 6 p.m. Central Time is just cutting into my evening time, and I feel like I like to spend my evenings just kind of chilling out a little bit and maybe getting ready for the show the next day. So it's kind of just too much for me after a day of work. So we're going to switch it up. We're going to go 4 times a week. We're going to go every day except Wednesday at 12 noon Central Standard Time. That way, maybe some of you folks on your lunch breaks or driving around, Ubering, whatever it is you folks do during the day, you might have a chance to follow us, check us out during the day instead of, I'm sure all you folks have families too, and y'all got other stuff y'all want to do besides try to listen to me, although this show is amazing. I don't know why you wouldn't. But so we're going to go Monday. Monday's going to be Exaggeration Monday, and we'll get into talking about what that means in a little bit. Tuesday, we'll do After Action Review. I'm an old military guy. After Action Review is just where you get together and you go over everything that went wrong, everything that went well. You bust into the statistics a little bit. We're going to do that on Tuesday for the game prior. So we'll do a After Action Review on the Kansas Jayhawks tomorrow. Thursday is Deep Dive Thursday. We're going to start digging into the next opponent on Deep Dive Thursday. And then Friday is going to be Prediction Friday. We'll do our Trace Otra games for the week predictions during that show. We'll also do our prediction for the Texas game that weekend. So check us out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube. Or you can wait for the podcast to go up. The podcast to go up about an hour later. But alas, it is Exaggeration Monday. So I talked about it right before the Alabama game. There's a heart side of my fandom and there's a logical side of my fandom. Well, there's also a live game watching side of my fandom versus sort of a post-game analysis side of my fandom. And I find that these two are at odds almost all the time. Very rarely does my live game watching fandom agree with anything that my post-game analysis fandom says, and vice versa. So Exaggeration Monday is just all about my reaction to the game live. Just all the things I was thinking as I was watching the game live. So let's get it. The KU game was a big win for Texas, folks. It's another top 25 matchup, another top 25 victory for Texas. It's a chance to go 5-0 for the first time since 2009. And I felt like this game was a little trappy for Texas. We talked all summer long about KU. We mentioned them multiple times. They're kind of like, to me, they're like a dark horse to maybe be there at the end and play for a Big 12 championship game. Got a really good offense. Statistically had a really good defense until Saturday. But this is the game right before the Red River Shootout. And Kansas is still Kansas. And Texas went up to Kansas last year and just blew Kansas smooth out on the back of almost 400 yards rushing. So I felt like maybe, looking at the schedule in the summertime when the schedules were released, I thought that maybe this KU game was a little trappy. Lots of shit talking going on Twitter about Daniels not being able to go because of the injury. How this is the third time this season Texas has faced a backup. 3 weeks in a row, actually. Wyoming, Baylor, and Kansas. And you know what, folks? None of those games were close. Texas won those games by an average of 26 points. Texas has had its fair share of quarterback injuries as well. So I feel like from a karma perspective, from a football god's perspective, this is just a little bit of payback. Colt McCoy in the 2009 National Championship game. It's a widely held sentiment amongst Texas fans that Texas wins that game. Mac Brown is 1,000% convinced Texas wins that game if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt. I don't like to do that, but I feel like Texas wins that game if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt. I mean, there was 3 minutes left in the game, and it was a one-score game with a true freshman quarterback that turned out to not even be able to make it at Texas. It's got to at least be a discussion. Like, you folks that want to say, no, there's no way, y'all are wrong, dead wrong. Ewers against Bama last season. Everything's looking amazing in the first half of the first quarter of that game. And then, bam, Ewers goes out. And we have to trot our second-string quarterback out there who can barely walk because of an ankle injury. We still make a lot of plays in that game and still almost win that game. No doubt in my mind, we win that game with Ewers last year. So y'all can fuck off with all this backup quarterback narrative bullshit. That's the way football goes. Texas fans have had to deal with it. Other people will have to deal with it. It's the way it goes. Special teams in this game Saturday were absolute pissed me off. I don't know if they were garbage. I don't know if I want to say that. But it was pretty rough. And there were some bright spots. Like, just catch the damn ball on a punt. Just run up there and catch it. You can free catch it. There's a fair catch. Just put your hand up. Like, if you're scared or like you don't think you can, you don't want to get hit, which I get, man. I don't want to get hit. I don't want to run up there and get nailed by some dude coming 100 miles. That's why the fair catch exists. If the punt doesn't look like you're going to get an opportunity to return it, throw your fair hand catch up, run up to where the ball's going to land and catch the damn thing. We give up so many yards because we just won't run up and catch the ball. I don't understand. And then you got one job, Texas place kicker. Your job is to kick the football through the yellow uprights from reasonable distances. And the last 2 weeks, we have not done that. And I sit there and I watch this game happen and I go, man, that is going to kill us one day. there's going to be a time where we need to make a kick, just like we needed to make a kick against Bama last year. And the Texas place kicker did it. By the way, I'm not going to call any of these people out by name. I think on Exaggeration Monday, that's too much, because Exaggeration Monday is going to be very exaggerated. And I'm going to say some things that I'm going to regret on After Action Review Tuesday. So I don't want to call any of these guys out by name, but I will call out the actions. We got to catch the damn punt. We got to kick the little football through the yellow freaking uprights and score points. Texas didn't punt a single time in this game on Saturday, which that's the first time that's happened against a ranked opponent in a long time. It was the Baylor Bears. I can't remember what year, but it was pretty funny. The commentators during the game were saying really the only reason that happened is because Texas had 6 turnovers in that game. But this was actually a good way to not punt at all during a game. I love seeing all the touchbacks on the kickoffs. We talked earlier, in the summertime when we were kind of breaking down the position groups. One of the things I just absolutely didn't understand about these kickoffs is why that we couldn't just kick the ball out of the back of the end zone or deep enough into the end zone where they didn't want to return it. I don't know if it's a strategy. I don't know if the kicker just misses the ball sometimes, maybe. I'm sure wind plays a factor, but I don't know that it's been all that windy in any of these games this year. Most of the kickoffs are going into the end zone deep enough where teams aren't returning them. When they do try to return them, the kick coverage is great, and they are laying wood on people. So there's a few things on the special team side they've got to clean up, or they're going to cost us. You got to get up there and catch the punt. You got to kick the ball through the uprights from a reasonable distance. You just have to. You just got to figure it out, man. It's all mental. Like, your leg work's really good. I know it does because I've seen it work. Get your mind right. Let's get it. Offense. This offense put up a ton of yardage and a ton of points, despite the fact that they left a lot of points on the field. They moved the ball really well between the 20s. And then early in the game just got bogged down in the red zone early on. I think a lot of that has to do, I think a lot of it honestly just has to do with the play calling. There's some situational stuff as well. Like you see Jonathan Brooks make a really long run. He's winded. Bring in somebody else. And it's just not the same from a run perspective. Tried to do a little fancy stuff there in the red zone, like a double reverse or something in the red zone. I'm not a fan of that stuff, man. I think you're good enough. Just line up, just run over people. That stuff is rough, man. And then I don't know if they were in the red zone at the time, but the errant snap got them into like 2nd and 25, I think. Can't do that stuff. Sark mentioned in his post-game presser, he said, yeah, maybe I got a little too cute down there. And someone asked him specifically about the red zone woes. And it was kind of interesting because it was the only time I've seen Steve Sarkisian look noticeably irritated by a question. Usually, he takes the questions on, he gives good answers. He didn't like that question, and I'm not exactly sure why. He said, I'm not a statistics guy. We just need to score. All right. I'm down with that. Just score. The running game in this game was absolutely outstanding for the second year in a row. Jonathan Brooks, man, we've been saying it. I've been saying it all season, and I called it out last week after the Baylor game, and I said, man, I get the Cedric Baxter hype. I understand This kid is big. I understand he's got a lot of physical tools. I get he was the number one running back in the country coming out of high school. I even get that you've got a lot of talented guys, and you've got to – one of the challenges coaches have today is they've got to figure out a way to keep feeding some of these guys. Some guys weren't meant to come and sit on the bench and wait their turn. Whether you think that's good or bad doesn't really freaking matter. That's just the way it is. But Cedric Baxter is not Jonathan Brooks. Even when healthy, he's not Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks, to me, is clearly the number one guy at the running back position. And I think he's the catalyst for this offense. I mean, we've been talking – I think the whole college football world has been talking about the weapons. You got Jatavion Sanders. You got Adonai Mitchell, who I just found out doesn't want to be called AD anymore. I must have missed that memo. I've been calling Adonai AD all season long, all off season long. I know he's listening to this show, so Adonai, I apologize for calling you AD. Won't happen again. You got Xavier Worthy. You got Jordan Whittington. You got some incoming guys at the wide receiver positions. You got Quinn Ewers, who's just tearing it up on the ground this year. I mean, there's a ton of weapons on this offense, but I think the catalyst is Jonathan Brooks 100%. When he's on the field, great things happen. When he comes off the field, the offense sputters. Jonathan Brooks is like third in the country right now in rushing yards, and he's played one less game than the number one guy. I think Jonathan Brooks, you know, one of the things we do every year for the season is talk about our MVPs and who's our candidates for these different positions and, you know, who might make the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think Jonathan Brooks could. I think if you look at all the players on this team offensively, Jonathan Brooks is poised right now to be that guy for Texas. He might play his way into the Heisman Trophy race. CJ Baxter, not 100%. We said it during the Baylor game or right after the Baylor game. I'm saying it again. The guy is not 100%. I don't know why. I don't know why less than 100% CJ Baxter is better than 100% Jaden Blue. And I don't see practice. I don't know their attitudes. I don't know much about these kids other than what I see when they go on the field. And CJ Baxter is not. He's just not ready to produce that much at this point. His feet are way too happy the second he gets the ball. It's one of the criticisms I kind of had against Bijan Robinson last year, and one of the reasons I've always liked Roschon Johnson so much. And I don't like Roschon better than Bijan, or vice versa, really. But I just always felt like sometimes the hole's there when you get the ball, just run through it. Like, you don't have to fake everybody out every single play or try to fake everybody out every single play. And I think C.J. Baxter still, and I'm not even saying it's bad, and he won't do that his whole career. He's still just trying to figure out college football. I think he's a little tentative because of that ankle. But for right now, I'd rather see Jaden Blue. I think Jaden Blue is the most elusive of the three. And that's saying something because Jonathan Brooks is like a sneaky elusive. He doesn't have like this explosive lateral quickness and explosive out of the cut, you know, up the field, at least look to him. He's very smooth, but he can turn his hips. It's kind of interesting, man. Those safeties come up on him and he just turns those hips a little bit and they miss. Or don't get all of him. Don't bring him down. But Jaden Blue's got a little bit of that sort of Bijan Robinson type agility in the cut game and the getting going again game. One of the craziest things about Bijan Robinson was that dude could stop, jump cut to the side, and then explode, and he'd be like full speed, like in one step. And I think obviously that's tough on defenses, and I think Jaden Blue is the closest thing the Texas running back room has to that at this point. I want to see Jaden Blue until Baxter gets healthy, and then we can go back out and try Baxter again. I don't understand why you would just keep putting him out there. He's not ready. He is clearly favoring something on his leg. I think it's an ankle. You got Quinn Ewers in the running game picking his spots. Huge, was it 30-yard, 32-yard, something like that run to start off the scoring for Texas. This is like a wrinkle for Quinn Ewers that we didn't see at all last year, really. And it's really dangerous for teams. He does it just enough, and it's like big plays. He gets long runs with it for touchdowns. He's done that 2 weeks in a row. He's picked up third downs multiple times this year. When the protection breaks down, he finds a spot, gets out of the pocket, picks up a first down. He did it against Kansas. The Quinn Ewers running game is not something that's ever going to be planned, really. I know they did a rollout. I know they did the naked boot. Which, by the way, I couldn't believe my eyes. I kind of couldn't believe Quinn Ewers was in the game at that point, but then I certainly couldn't believe that on the 1 yard line, we naked boot him out and sort of subject him to any kind of punishment at that point. But hey, man, balls to the wall, right? Play to win. Don't play not to lose. Offensive line ran right over the top of a statistically very stingy KU defense. They had one of the best rushing defenses in the country coming into this game. I think the difference is, there's a couple differences. I think one of them is that interior offensive line is finally starting to gel a little bit. You had Cole Hudson that started last year at that right guard position. He got hurt in spring. DJ Campbell was kind of, a really highly touted guy, but still trying to figure it out, like on the mental side, I think. Just the knowing what to do, knowing how to do it type thing. Crazy physically talented guy. But he gets an opportunity, and it was kind of rough. It was rough at times. It was really good at times. And now I think you're starting to see DJ Campbell finally come in to himself. He's understanding what he should be doing. And when you don't have to think about things, you just react and you go kill people. And DJ Campbell's really good at just being physically better than guys. I think him and Jake Majors have kind of gelled together. Those guys have to work together a lot in pass protection and on run plays. I think they can trust each other now, and I think you're starting to see that. I think the addition of Paul Christ, I don't know. We'll talk some more about Christ in a minute. Different Christ, though. Addition of Paul Christ as offensive analyst has been huge for the running game. I think we've seen a lot more power-based running schemes out of the team this year. Not that they didn't do it last year, but we just are seeing a lot more of it to me this year. A lot of counter stuff. A lot of counter stuff with the tight end coming across the formation. I mean, we've seen them pull both the guard and the tackle. You don't hardly see that in football anymore at the collegiate level. Instead of these zone blocking schemes where you're kind of stepping into a zone and you're kind of waiting for something to come to you, this offensive line has kind of changed its mentality, and they're firing off the ball. They're kind of taking it to the defensive line. And I don't mean to take any credit away from Kyle Flood. Kyle Flood has done an amazing job recruiting these offensive linemen. He's done an amazing job developing these offensive linemen. Just a really big turnaround for the offensive line for the Texas Long. I mean, if they can go if they can continue to control the line of scrimmage offensively like they've controlled the line of scrimmage through 5 games offensively, if they can just keep doing that, they're going to be a really hard team to beat. Passing game, I thought it was another really efficient day for Quinn Ewers and those Texas wide receivers. I don't remember seeing a single drop. Only saw a couple of errant throws. Nothing major. Quinn did throw his first interception since the TCU game. And I think he threw another one in the red zone earlier in the game that probably should have been picked. I was noticing, and it makes 100% sense, the only time Quinn Ewers gets in trouble with his accuracy is when he doesn't get his feet set and he tries to rush throws. When he's on time and when his feet are set, man, he's pretty deadly, especially in the short to intermediate. Missed on a deep ball to Adonai Mitchell again. We continue to see this over and over. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know if he just doesn't trust it. To me, if I'm looking out there and I see Adonai Mitchell in single coverage, and I know he's going down the field, he's getting that ball, and it's going to be close. And I'm not even going to care. I'm not even going to care that there's a defensive back there. We're throwing the ball right to where he's going to be, and we're going to let him go up and make a play. Worthy and Mitchell both had great games, almost 100 yards apiece. Mitchell over 100. Worthy was a few yards short of 100. Lots of really like big time plays by Mitchell on third downs. Same thing for Worthy. I really think I know Worthy is kind of, it almost is like he's taking a back seat this season because they're shifting coverage towards him. I know it's got to be frustrating for him, but when he gets the opportunity, he's making catches and he's turning them into yards. I think Worthy's going to get his. There's a lot of football to be played in 2023. And with the way that Adonai Mitchell and Quinn Ewers just sort of hook up over and over again, defenses are going to stop having, they're not going to be able to play the way they've been playing. They're not going to be able to shift coverages the way they've been shifting coverages. They're going to have to play more straight up. Saw Jordan Whittington with another, kind of quiet game, but really nice third down catch to get a first down. I think Jordan Whittington's a guy that people sleep on again. I think he's a guy that might end up having a big game in this Red River Shootout on Saturday. Had us another Jonte Cook sighting. Last week we saw Johnny Cook get down the field, made a really nice grab, tripped over his feet a little bit, would have been a touchdown. This Saturday we see him take the little slant and get up the field. Man, he is explosive. He is electric, folks. I said it, before the season. I felt like Jonte Cook was kind of like a Xavier Worthy clone when you look at their skill sets, and I'm not backing off of that. He has got the speed to beat you deep, and man, he gets the ball in his hands, and it's trouble for opposing defense. The problem is, like, where do you play all these guys? You're not taking Worthy off the field that much. Who's he going to play in front of? I want more of it. I want to see more of Jonte Cook. I'd like to see him in the return game. I know that's crazy. I know that's very anti-Mac Brown. You just don't put freshmen out there because for some reason freshmen in college that have been playing football their whole lives suddenly forget how to catch balls and hold on to balls. I never understood why Mac Brown thought that. I loved Mac Brown, man, but he said some crazy shit sometimes. And that was, to me, was one of the biggest ones. We don't just want to put freshmen out there because they make mistakes. People just make mistakes. That had nothing to do with the fact that they're freshmen. I think the offensive line giving up too many sacks, too much pressure. And it's mostly up the middle, man. As much as I feel like Jake Majors and that interior offensive line have improved in the run game, I still see the center getting pushed back a whole lot in the pass game. Got to be stronger right there at that. I mean, that's kind of like the keystone of the offensive line. Like, that cannot move. Definitely can't move backwards. I'd like to see Steve Sarkisian sort of holster the sideways backwards pass for a week or two. We've seen it the last 2 weeks. It's lost yards every time, except for the trick play where Worthy got the ball down the field. And maybe that's why he throws it. Maybe he says, I don't care. I'll give up the yards for an opportunity to set up that type of play down the field. I don't know. It's worked before. I mean, we saw it work against Oklahoma with Xavier Worthy, the very first play of the game in 2021. For whatever reason, they're just not blocking it well this season. So maybe put that one in the bottom of the tackle box and go back to it in a few weeks. I don't know. Practice the downfield blocking. Defense gave up 2 big plays, and that's pretty much it. I thought they were really good the majority of the game. And Kansas is a tough team to defend, like schematically. That triple option stuff they do is something you just don't see a lot. Everybody made a big deal about Jaden Daniels not being in the game and Bean being in it. But Bean, not only is Bean like an effective thrower, he's proven that over his career. He's an outstanding runner. That kid has got wheels. And I just thought, I don't know why, but KU went away from that in the second half for the most part. I mean, I thought they pulled kind of like a Steve Sarkisian and just abandoned that part of their offense the way Steve Sarkisian sometimes abandons the running game and has in the past. As good as they played, I thought there were a lot of missed tackles at the line of scrimmage. If they didn't populate the ball as good as they do, a lot of hats around the ball. If they didn't do that, there would have been a lot of big plays for Kansas, a lot more big plays, because they just missed tackles in the backfield. I mean, we missed tackles in the backfield. We missed tackles right at the line of scrimmage. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if those guys from Kansas are just really shifty or what. But there was a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage that just wasn't good. I'm getting sick of watching cornerbacks blitz off the corner and completely miss the quarterback. We saw it against Alabama last year. We saw it in the game Saturday against KU. If you're going to do it, you got to get home. And you got to affect the quarterback. You got to get your hands on him. You got to at least get your hands on him. Maybe you don't make the sack by yourself, but if you grab a hold of him, somebody else will come along. Y'all get him down. But this whiff shit, it's like a heat-seeking. I mean, you can see it too. That's what's so frustrating about it is you see him go to move to that position and go at the snap, And you're like, man, this is fixing to be ugly. This dude's and the quarterback doesn't see it until it's just right about the time to get nailed. He sees it and just sidesteps the whole thing. And then you got him rolling out away from where that pressure came from. You got less defenders on that side of the field. It's an easy pitch and catch at that point. It's kind of a high-risk play. And so far, it's been very low reward for Texas. And to me, that's all about just, it's all about point of attack, right? You're trying to attack where he's at. You got to anticipate where he's going to be. And you may have to break down and not get the kill shot. I thought the perimeter defense was pretty just damn terrible the whole game. Again, I'm not sure why KU went away from trying to get the ball outside on those triple option type plays. I think on the fourth down that they fumbled, they absolutely would have converted if Bean's able to get that ball out of the running back's stomach. They kind of screwed the fit up a little bit. Running back just wasn't going to give it up. But if he does, I'm not sure Jahdae Barron can make that play on Bean out there by himself. And if Bean does decide he needs to get rid of it, the pitch man was wide open. There wasn't anybody covering the pitch man. It would have been a huge play. It might have been a touchdown, to be perfectly honest. I think every team we play for the rest of the season with a even remotely mobile quarterback is about to throw the triple option package in their I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised a single bit if the Sooners don't run some kind of triple option play this weekend. Dylan Gabriel's pretty mobile, pretty athletic guy. That's my horn take for the week. We're going to see the triple option at a OU. Some sort of variation of it. I'm not talking about zone read. I'm talking about like a legit triple option with a third option to pitch. That's going to happen. It's either going to be a third option to pitch or a throw out to the boundary. Book it down. That's your horn take for Monday, Exaggeration Monday. The front four continue to just absolutely decimate everything in their path. They're so disruptive. And it doesn't even matter which ones are in the game. I'm not sure there's another team in the I said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm not sure there's another defense in the country that rotates as many bigs on the defensive line as Texas does, with almost zero impact. It doesn't matter which ones are out there. There is constant pressure on the quarterback. There is constant readjusting of the line of scrimmage. They move the line of scrimmage backwards consistently. Just a really good group of defensive linemen this Texas team has. I thought it was kind of an overall quiet day for the linebackers. I don't know if we dig into the statistics, if that's true. I remember Jalen Ford making one play in the backfield, a tackle for loss on kind of looked like an outside zone play where they were really trying to stretch and get to the boundary and get around the edge. Jalen Ford got back there and I think got him first, and then maybe Taft cleaned it up. Not 100% sure. Maybe I'm mixing two different plays, but I know Jalen Ford made a tackle in the backfield at one point. But other than that, man, just don't really remember him and Benda doing much of anything. The only thing I remember about Ant Hill, and I ain't dogging on him at all, was a late hit on the quarterback. We talked about it a little last week, and I got beat up on it. we are susceptible to the long ball on the back end. And that's got to get fixed. Baylor took advantage of it. Kansas took advantage of it. Oklahoma is absolutely going to attempt to take advantage of it. I'm not sure what the safeties are doing on these long pass plays. The one where Kansas scored, the deep safety was just completely flat-footed. It's like, I don't know if he didn't see the guy run right in front of him on the post, but he never turned to run until that guy was about past him. And you're not catching up on that. If you're even, you're leaving. That's what the saying is. And that's if you're turning your hips. If you're standing flat-footed and you got to start running, if you don't start to notice that and you don't start to react to that probably 10 yards in advance, like the guy is 10 yards from your spot on the field, you're not ever going to win that. You're not catching up. I don't know what the breakdown is. I don't know. Again, I don't claim to understand what schemes they're in and what responsibilities they have all the time. Sometimes I can notice that stuff and go, yeah, that was a miss, or no, that wasn't a miss. This is what happened on the play. But I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what those guys are asking them to do. And anybody that tells you they do is full of shit. They might have a good idea. I mean, most guys that played at a high level understand the different concepts. You can look at the alignment, look at the other things that are happening. You can have a good idea, but you can't know for sure. I don't know what the breakdown is on this long stuff, but they got to figure it out because it's going to absolutely hurt. And you can't keep giving up long balls. You certainly can't do it for touchdowns. And that's happened. I mean, Alabama got a long touchdown against Texas. KU got a long touchdown pass against Texas. Baylor was able to get some plays down the field they didn't score on. And thank God the Texas defense stiffened up in the red zone and kept them out every single time. That's got to get fixed. I mean, to me, that's really the only weakness on this defense is if the defensive line doesn't get the pressure, doesn't affect the quarterback, there's guys open down the field. And I think it's probably been like that all season. I would not be surprised if opposing quarterbacks have just been extremely frustrated because they've seen guys down the field and just couldn't get them the ball because the pressure from Texas was so great. Coaching, clock management, man, why are we taking 3 timeouts into the locker room? There was 2 opportunities to take timeout during that drive. After the long run to set up 3rd and manageable by Baxter, they should have taken a timeout right there. That's my number one. You should have took a timeout. Number 2 is after the first down catch by Adonai Mitchell. The very next play, take a timeout. Let's get a plan of what we're going to do the next few plays, and then let's go out and try to execute it. And you still got another timeout in your pocket, or 2 actually. I'm saying on one of those 2 plays, they should have called a timeout and got regrouped. Said, this is our plan. And I know, here's the deal. I know Steve Sarkisian and that coaching staff, I know they work this stuff in practice, all this situational stuff. So I think their expectation is, we've done this. We did this in practice. We should be able to do this in the game. But you don't get timeouts back. There is literally no reason to go into halftime with that type of a situation with 3 timeouts in your back pocket. And I've talked about this before with Steve Sarkisian. He loves to call his plays, and man, the dude can call plays, no doubt. No question about that. But I think he gets lost in that play call world, and he forgets he's the head coach. And he forgets that it's his job to call timeouts sometimes and regroup the team and make a plan. Texas lost like 20 seconds between those 2 plays. that could have came in really, really handy in an attempt to score some points right before the half. These guys that call plays and are trying to be the head coach and call plays, I don't think it's like nothing against them. Like, that's a hard job. I think Steve Sarkisian's the type of offensive guy that's looking ahead like 3 or 4 plays. His mind is never stopping. If you watch him on the sideline, he's sitting over there squatted and he's writing stuff down and he's looking at his plate. I mean, the guy is constantly, what's next? What do we do now? How can I take advantage of something I just saw 2 plays ago? Like, which is awesome. But you can't be thinking about all that stuff and trying to think about taking some time out. So I don't know how they need to fix that. They need to figure that out. They've got like these associate head coach guys. Somebody needs to be in Steve Sarkisian's ear saying, time out, coach. Let's take a time out, coach. And maybe that happened and maybe he said, fuck off. We're going to keep going. I don't know. But I think at the very least it cost him points. I think it was part of why Quinn Ewers threw the interception that he threw, and it was a bad throw. Like, I'm not going to blame Steve Sarkisian for that throw, but I think the situation they were in wasn't comfortable for Ewers, and I think if you take a time out there, get regrouped, find a plan for the next few plays, Quinn Ewers is much more comfortable and much more likely to be successful. I thought it was a relatively clean game. Penalty-wise, there were some that pissed me off, but that's the way it goes. I love the dedication to the running game. Been hollering about it all since last year. Run the fucking football. Just keep running the football. All the good stuff happens when you can just run the football. They've done it pretty well the last 2 weeks. Let's keep it going. That running game is good. That offensive line is good. I think Texas should probably play every game on the road going forward. I was talking about it last year, like what happens at halftime. I had a TikTok video that got like, I don't know, 250,000 views or something, where I said, what is happening at halftime? Like, if it was me, we just wouldn't go in to the locker room at halftime. We'd sit on the sidelines like it was a junior high game, eat our oranges and drink some Gatorade, and then go play the second half. Because something happened when they went into the locker room. They didn't come out and play well. So now my question is, like, what the fuck happens at home? Like, what is the difference between being on the road for this team and being at home for this team, where there's just like this mental, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's a focus thing. Something. There's something there. I think the staff needs to figure out what that is. So until they figure it out, we need to play every game on the road. I thought the team in the 2 road games this year has looked very dialed in, very businesslike, very, very mentally tough. It's like they almost can't play unless the other team has hundreds of thousands of fans screaming at them the whole time. The quick and dirty Red River Shootout edition. This is the 119th battle for the Golden Hat, folks. Number 12, Oklahoma, at number 3, Texas. For those of y'all that don't know, they're still a home team, even though they're away. Both of them. It's a neutral site. The home team gets the recruits, so the Texas Longhorns will have the recruits this weekend. Both teams are undefeated, setting up the most nationally relevant Red River Shootout since 2008, when both teams certainly had the potential to be in the national championship. Oklahoma did make it to the national championship that year. College game day is going to be inside the fairgrounds on Saturday. That starts at 8 a.m. Gates open at 7 a.m. I think Texas comes in with a more impressive resume, but Oklahoma looks a lot better statistically in a lot of spaces, and the ESPN FPI actually gives OU a slight advantage, a slight higher chance of winning this game. Vegas line opened up at 4.5 for Texas. We'll do more on this game on the deep dive on Thursday at 12 noon Central Standard Time. The Horn Takes Traveling Roadshow is going to be there. If you see me, say hello. I'm trying to get some media cred so I can get a really small camera in there and do some interviews with fans and shoot some video of the fairgrounds. If not, I'll just have to do it on my phone. I think I might have waited too long for that. Random college football thoughts. I just got a couple today. There's two teams with no chance to make their conference championship game after what I saw on Saturday. LSU, your defense is trash. You can't score 49 points and lose a football game. That shit looked like 2021 Texas level ass on defense. I don't give a shit how good your offense is. If you lose scoring 49 points, you can't win. You just ain't going to win games. And the crazy thing is, I mean, Ole Miss is statistically good offensively, but they're not that good. Alabama, made them look pedestrian. USC, you guys aren't making your conference championship either. You can't give up 27 second half points to Colorado team that is bad in the trenches. We all know this. You had a huge lead on them at half, and you damn near let them get back into that game to the point where they had a chance to tie it. They were short players. USC's defense is terrible. So, again, I don't care how many points you can score. I don't care how many Heisman trophies Caleb Williams can win. You're not winning games if you can't stop anybody. RG3 apparently pissed a bunch of people off with some comments from the LSU and Ole Miss game. Listen, RJ3 is a really corny dude sometimes. He says stuff off the cuff sometimes to try to be different, I think. And I don't inherently think there's anything wrong with that. He's kind of annoying to me. So after a Jalen Daniels sack in that Ole Miss game, he says something to the effect of, they lifted that man up to the sky like he was Jesus, letting him know they were going to put him on the cross. Something along those lines. And apparently people want an apology, and some people apparently want him to be fired. To those people, I say, shut the fuck up. And again, I don't particularly like RJ3 as a color commentary guy. He's not my favorite. Sometimes I go, I can't believe he just said what he said. But there's nothing wrong with what he said. Stop trying to cancel everybody. Stop trying to dox everybody. Stop. Your outrage about shit is your problem. It's not other people's problems. He didn't say anything disrespectful. Get a grip, people. Everybody, get a fucking grip. Tuesday, we're going to have our after action review. We're going to get a little more statistical about this Texas and KU game. We'll recap our Trace Ultra games from week 5. We'll have more random college football thoughts, including some of my favorite things about the Red River Shootout. Wednesday night, we'll do a TikTok live at 6 p.m. Central, probably. I've missed the last couple, but we'll try to do that again. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. It's Red River Shootout week, baby. Get hooked.